Good afternoon and welcome to United Diversity. We are very glad that you have decided to join us again today as we continue our exploration of different cultures. Today we are discussing a very important topic, and this is a topic that is not very commonly discussed here at IS. Before we begin, I want to give a disclaimer that views expressed on this program, they don't reflect actually IS. They are simply opinions of our participants. And with this, I have invited a few of our friends from different countries to share with us what they know about Muslims. So today we are discussing the perspective of Christians on Muslims or Islam. I know there are two different things, but we may have some overlap somewhere. Before we start, I want you to introduce yourself. We're going to start on the far end there. Please tell us who you are and what you're doing here, and how long you've been in the Philippines.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Andrews, first from Ghana, West Africa. I came to the Philippines to pursue degree in theology, and after BA, I decided to continue here in IS. I've been here for almost 6 years now, but don't ask me anything in Tagalog, I only respond hello.
Welcome to our program. We're very good. We're glad that you have made it here. Let's go to the next person.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm David Harms from Germany, and I also study theology here. I'm not here for a long time yet. I came 4 months ago, and my Tagalog level, maybe it's still on the same level like it.
Welcome. If your Tagalog is the same level as somebody who's been here 6 years, you're doing very well. All right, let's go to the next person.
Good afternoon. My name is Pavel Zubkov. I came from Russia to work, to teach here. Before I was studying here, so my experience of the Philippines is not new. It's about 5 years all in all.
All right. Welcome back. Dr. Pavel was here before as a student, now has just joined us as one of the faculty, and we're excited that you have come. And actually, as you're going to discover later on, he is one of the reasons why we have this discussion this afternoon. But let's go to the next person and we'll go back to that.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jody Franch, and I hail from the beautiful country of Zimbabwe in southern Africa. I've been in the Philippines for just about 2.5 years now, pursuing my master's degree in divinity here at IS.
Welcome. I see a lot of diversity happening here. Different countries in Europe and Africa has been represented. I hope the last one comes from Asia.
Yeah, I'm from Asia. My name is Judson. I'm from India. I've been in the Philippines for more than 5 years. So I'm studying New Testament here in MAR.
All right. Thank you so much, and welcome to our program. Some of you, I think all of you, this is your first time to be here on our program, so this is an exciting moment for me. Safari Wambaleka, I'm the host of United in Diversity. The reason why we have this program this afternoon is primarily I was talking to Dr. Pavel, and he's teaching a course on something like what we're going to discuss today. And he said there's just too much that we cannot keep it to ourselves. Let's share with everybody else. And so the people I have today, they are experts as far as Islamic studies are concerned. As far as IS is concerned, maybe if we go to a Muslim country, they may not be experts. But as far as we're concerned here, they've got a little bit more than we know. So we're going to move into the first question, and anyone can jump in anytime. What are some of the common features that you find between the Muslim culture and in Muslim-dominated countries? When you look at different Muslim countries, what are some of the common features that you find?
I am from Ghana, West Africa. Even though it's a Muslim country, Islam isn't absent, because 18% of the population are Muslims. Yes, and it's interesting talking about the practices of Islam. All of them are practiced by the Muslims in my country.
What are some of those practices?
Okay, I'll begin with the 5 pillars, which begins with the declaration of faith in Allah as one true God, and also their prayer practices 5 times a day. Sometimes even in my country, if you don't have a lamp, don't worry, you're living by a mosque and they will call you, it's time to wake up. Yes, and also after that, their Ramadan, yearly or monthly prayer, where they fast for a number of days. It's also practiced. And that aside also, even the government of my country has a program for Muslims to travel to Mecca every year. And basically all their practices are being done in my country, and they are exuberant about this. Anytime it's time for them to celebrate anything, they come out very strong. Also, there is a public holiday that all of us, Christians, Muslims, together, we celebrate.
Interesting. I actually didn't know that Ghana was predominantly Muslim. I knew I would have expected that in Nigeria, but I didn't know that Ghana was predominantly Muslim. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Any other common feature in the cultures of Muslim countries? I see you holding a microphone high. Maybe you want to share with us?
Yeah, since I'm from Germany, it's not a traditionally Muslim country. But the past years, the Muslim population was rising heavily. So just the last year, we had around 1 million Muslims coming as refugees to Germany. So in total, out of a population of 80 million, we have now around 5 million Muslim. And so I had some experiences with Muslim there, and also could observe
please share
some
at
parts.
least one of those experiences.
Yeah, what I could observe regarding your question, maybe some differences. Maybe these differences are not so heavy in Africa because the Africa in general is more community-based than Europe, right? But among Germans in Europe, we have, it's more an individualistic society, right? So people more, you are concerned about your issues, where you will reach with your life and so on. And when I compare this with the Muslim cultures and people there, they're very much community-based. So very family-orientated, very much on helping one another. And one thing that I observed with some Muslim friends I had is that they have like, it's like an honor for them to pay for you whenever you go somewhere. It seems to me like that. So whenever I went with them, they really put pressure on me. No, I want to pay. I want to pay for that. This is, yeah.
Very interesting. Let me jump here, and then I'll go back to Dr. Pavel after that. Let's go to you, and then we'll go that way.
All right. One of the common features that I find among the Muslim-dominant countries is what the anthropologists and the missiologists call honor-shame culture, like Indonesia, Pakistan. This sort of practice and the value of honor-shame is there in their culture. For example, let me just give one example. If your sister or your daughter gets pregnant before marriage, that's a shame for the whole family, for the whole clan. So, and the other thing that I find it interesting is that in these countries, they respect elders in the Muslim-dominant countries. So maybe later we can expand it more, but I'll just pass it to my friend.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the next.
Well, for me, being the social person that I am, I'm always interacting and I love meeting new people. I've grown up with a number of friends from the Islamic faith, and one of the common features that I have noticed is to do with their lingo, the way that they just talk to you, even on a social level. With Islam, what I've seen is that it's not just their religion, it's a way of life. They don't separate like this is my religion and this is how I live, you know. It's so finely meshed together that for them there's no real distinction generally. And so when I'm interacting with my friends and I'll say, okay, I will see you tomorrow, or let's play football next week, they'll reply, yes, inshallah, you know, as in God willing. So it's really, really ingrained in them with their religious beliefs. It's like us as Christians, when we leave each other, we just naturally say, God bless you, or God be with you, or, you know, may God grant you a safe journey. But with all of them, it's so natural. It just rolls off their tongue, especially when they say inshallah, as in God willing, if I'm here next week, then we will meet, or something like that. I find that very interesting.
You know, that is very interesting, and I think that is something that Christians can learn from the Muslim, and specifically Adventist. As you were speaking, something that was going on in my mind was, is this actually true about me as an Adventist? That whether I'm in the classroom, in the market, on the bus, or in the airplane, everybody can easily notice that I'm an Adventist. That's a question that just kept popping up in my brain. And if the answer is no, something is wrong with my Christianity. Let's go to Dr. Pavel and see what he says he can add to this.
I am not from Muslim-dominated country, culture, but Muslims are a lot in Russia. We have about one-fifth of Muslims. We have several regions that are predominantly Muslims, like Dagestan, Chechnya, Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, Stan republics. What is interesting, in Moscow, I will not tell about Muslim republics, but in Moscow, when it comes to the festivals, religious festivals, like Uraza, at least twice a year, Uraza and Kurban Bayram, Eid al-Adha. This is the time when all Moscow Muslims come together, and you cannot believe what you see. This is, well, it's a capital of Russia. Russia is an Orthodox country. We have only one mosque for the whole Moscow. Moscow is a big city. So they are coming not just thousands, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. And they come together, they just flood all the streets around the mosque, and they worship. And this is something that I see. They come to Russia to work. They are not, well, many of them are permanent residents, but mostly they come to work for temporary. But their religious identity is so strong. So I want to emphasize this. They have a very strong religious identity. When it comes to the common festival, they will come together, they will worship, they will celebrate together. They will openly show it. They will not hide it at all, as already mentioned.
Interesting. Thank you so much. We're discovering different aspects, different views on Muslims from different countries. I have a second question. I want you to address this within 1 minute or less. As a Christian, what strikes you the most about the Muslim culture? What strikes you the most about the Muslim culture? When you look at it from the Christian perspective, the Adventist perspective, what is one thing that strikes you the most?
What strikes me the most is just one word: devotion. In all of my interactions with Muslims, just seeing, I've been to a number of Muslim countries. I come from a country which is not, Islam is a minority, but even with among my friends, their devotion to their religion, their devotion to Allah on a general level is something phenomenal. And when it's time to pray, they have a set time. They meet collectively on Friday. They close their stores. Back home, a lot of Muslims own, retail stores, clothes stores. They close up, and there's a sign on the door saying, "We have gone for prayers." And the mosque is full, and I'm like, wow, these people are really devoted.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Germany.
Yeah, what I find very impressive there is the family structure. First of all, you have a very clear order in the families. And secondly, they stick together very much in the family. Even there might be some fights within the family. Whenever something from outside comes close to them, they are one unit. And this unity, I think it's very impressive, and we can really learn something of that.
Very good, very good. Let's try India.
All right. My answer would be related to Jody. I'm very impressed by their seriousness to their religion. This might not be true for all the Muslims, but at least the ones that I know. So I had a friend in high school. So during the month of he was a Muslim, and during the month of Ramadan, we had to get food from the cafeteria during the day for him to eat at night. So he observed his religion even though he was just a high school boy. So that is really impressive for me.
Let's try Ghana, West Africa.
Okay. Devotion, family. I would also say passion to serve one another. Muslims have the passion of helping their own, and comparing it to us as Christians. A Muslim will be going to the mosque for prayers, see a brother walking by the roadside, and will have this passion, love, the excitement to pick the other person and go with him. Excuse me to say, we Christians will not do it. And even a lot of times we even consider people like that as, what if they are criminals? Muslims have none of this intention. They are willing to serve one another, and they come from one of the poorest communities. But it's not about what they have. Even if it's a pin, they are really ready to share it with no matter the number of people.
You know, from what you just said before we go back to Dr. Pavel, it reminds me of a story somebody was telling me who had been living in the Middle East for a number of years. He's a Christian, a missionary to the Middle East. And one day he was, I think, purchasing something, and then he didn't have enough. He had too much stuff with him, and he was trying to take some home and then come back. And he didn't know what to do because he needed to go a little far to get the stuff home and then come back. And he didn't know what to do. And there happened to be a Muslim there, and he says, "Don't worry, you can leave it there. We don't have Christians here. Nobody is going to steal it." He said he was shocked with the statement because, you know, Christians should be the ones who don't steal, but obviously in that predominantly Muslim-dominated country, the few people who steal are Christians, not the Muslim. I could not believe that statement, and hearing from what you're saying, it makes sense. This is not only the religion, it's the way of life. And I think we are picking a few things that we can implement even in our Christian life. Let's go back to Russia.
Just a remark on what was already said. It's what strikes me the most is the unity, Ummah. Ummah is the mother's womb in Arabic. It's something that is unites all of them together and binds them together. Wherever they go, whatever happens, they always feel this belonging to Ummah, to one family, extended family. So this is something.
But now the question for you, because you are basically the most expert, the best expert we've got here. What is the equivalence of Ummah in the Adventist religion?
This is interesting. Actually, we are about to do the same, to have the same. The body of Christ is really Ummah for us. Christ unites us all, and we are all belong to the same body of believers. This is something that is very much in common, and we can relate to that when we talk to Muslims. And actually, this is what they should feel when they join the church. They should join another Ummah, you know.
I'm sorry to push you a little harder than that. Theoretically, that is correct.
Yes.
But from what our brother from Ghana was saying, is this actually happening in a practical life? Because from what he said, and from Germany, it really happens. It doesn't matter if you are in a dangerous situation, a Muslim will help another Muslim. Theoretically, I think that is true about Adventists, but is this actually practical? everywhere where you find an Adventist, will they automatically put their life down for a brother who is in need?
That's a good question, actually. I should admit that this is not a practice everywhere and every time. Especially when we go to church, we go once a week, right? For us, church is something, a part of our life. But for them, it's a practical relationship on everyday basis. So this is what they miss. I remember some newly converted people from Muslim to Adventist people, Adventist church, and they were really, mourning that they don't have enough fellowship. They want more fellowship. So this is something that we really we need to learn and to practice biblical Christianity. I emphasize, New Testament model of Christianity is really, should be there. No less.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know that was not an easy question. Being from a non-Muslim country, and most of you come from non-Muslim countries except Ghana, not that we didn't know that was predominantly Muslim. How can you relate to the Muslim culture? Somebody who did not grow with Muslims, and that's the majority in our audience. How do you relate to somebody in a Muslim culture? Let me start with Zimbabwe, because it's a predominantly Christian country.
Yes. Being from a predominantly Christian country, one of the aspects that I can relate most to the Muslim culture is their belief in one God and their belief that they are created to serve this one God, which is very similar to our belief as Christians. When we read the Bible, we read that thy word have I hid in my heart, that I might not sin against thee. With the Muslims, they make it a point to also maybe take it a step further to memorize their holy book, which is the Quran, So in that sense, I can relate on that level.
So basically, we need to start where we have something in common.
Absolutely.
And starting with differences. Let's try Ghana one more time. How do we do this?
One thing is, it's a free country where everyone is allowed to practice whatever he or she believes. And I think it's in Ghana that my vice president is a Muslim and the president is a Christian. Yes. And it's also in Ghana that Christians and Muslims in one community share a mosque. We share the same wall, dividing Muslims and Christians, and there are no stones flying over each other's head. So in this sense, I kind of feel blessed to come from this place, having friends as Muslims. We talk to each other. The only problem is how to penetrate with this friendship that we have with the gospel message. This is how I relate with Muslims in my country. We can be friends. We can share the same house together. If it's Sunday, I can tell my neighbor I'm going to church. If it is prayer time, or usually during their festivals, they share food to every neighbor that they have. And we receive it, we eat it gladly. So the relationship between Christians and Muslims in my country is very cordial.
Wow, that's interesting. Let's try your country has so many things happening there. Let me just say that. So many gods. Do you have Muslims there? What is the percentage of Muslims in India?
I don't exactly know the percentage, but I heard that in India, there are more Muslims than in Pakistan.
Okay, that is quite interesting.
But
It's because obviously, the population is really large. So how do you relate to the Muslim culture?
there are so many things that I could relate to the Muslim cultures. For example, the concept of honor and shame. I came from this background, and then I could understand many things, why they do, how they do it. And also, as an Adventist, I believe that we Adventists have our own culture, right? As a community of faith. There are many things that the Muslim believe that are similar with Adventists. Like, for example, they don't eat the pork, They don't eat. They believe in the angels. They believe in one God, and they believe in the Old Testament figures like Abraham, Isaac, so many others. And I think this is my short answer for it.
Thank you so much. We're going to move to another question as our time is flying very fast. What encounter have you had with a Muslim, and how was that encounter? I'm going to start with Dr. Pavel.
Well, for my family, Muslims are not just friendly people or some interesting culture. My relatives used to be refugees in the country of Iran back on the verge of the 20th century when they were escaping the persecution from Russia. But you know, remind me the main question.
What has been your encounter or experience with
my
Muslim?
personal encounter was in the army, in the military, when I was serving my duty, and that was a problem of Sabbath and eating pork. I refused to eat pork, and you know many things that were going around me. I was a center of attention from the officers, from everybody. And I remember one guy. We had a Muslim group among the soldiers. And one guy came to me, and his eyes were like shining. He was imam, young, very big, strong guy.
And he was also serving in the military? Okay.
Yes. So he came to me and he said, well, I see you are a believer of God. You are devoted to God. And me also. I want to tell you, if ever you have problems, just rely on me. I will be there. I will be on your side. And that was so much, timely help from him and from all the Muslim community. I was shocked, actually. So that was personal.
Thank you so much. That is quite an interesting encounter with a Muslim. Yes, let's go to Zimbabwe.
Funny story, actually. A couple of years back, I was traveling with a tour group. We were visiting the Holy Land in Israel, and we were journeying on the bus, about 60 of us, from Israel down to Egypt, a predominantly Muslim country. And the guides on the bus, the Christian ones were not allowed to enter Egypt, so they changed the guides at the border, and the Egyptians came on. And I was quite intrigued because one of them had a really dark spot on his forehead. And I was just so intrigued. A young guy, maybe he was about 5 years older than me at the time. And being the forward person that I am, I asked him, excuse me, sir, why do you have such a dark spot on your forehead? I was quite fascinated. And I think he felt a bit, he wasn't angry at the question, but a bit embarrassed maybe or shy. And he mumbled something, but I couldn't get it because it was quite loud. And then about an hour later, the bus just mysteriously stopped in the middle of nowhere. And it's quite hot outside. And the three guides jump out of the bus. They get something from the side of the bus. And I'm looking over, and then they just roll out their mats and they start praying. Wow. And for me, that is an encounter that will stick with me for a very long time. And then I understood where the mark came from, because I guess he's very devoted, because doing that 5 times a day, hitting, if you've observed the Muslim ritual of prayer, they hit their heads on the grounds. And so I think that answered my question in a very dramatic way.
Wow, interesting, very interesting. Let's go to Germany.
Yeah, I think for me it's very important to differentiate between believing Muslims and secular Muslims. Because my first encounters in Germany was the Muslim population is leading the criminal statistics. When it comes to drug business, they're the first. Right? When it comes to prostitution, they are very much involved into these things. Right? So the first experiences that I made with Muslim were not that positive. So I had a certain perspective on them and towards them. I didn't know them personally so well, And I realized that the worldview and the things they thought is morally and valuable were much different than mine, without acknowledging that directly. So I realized there are many things, and I had no understanding for that, right? But then things changed. I made some personal experiences with several people, until I lived in one room for 1.5 years together with one Muslim guy. And this was quite a beautiful time, a very beautiful time, a very kind young man. I have been impressed about his sincerity, about his willingness to share whatever he has. He was very free to give. We discussed about God many times. I could pray with him. We could pray together. We really became good friends. It was an impressive time, an impressive experience being with him.
I just wanted to add something to an uncommon perspective he has shared with us. I just finished a few months ago reading this book, but one of those, this is, I think we have actually used that also in the seminary. It's a book written by a young Christian. He just died a couple months ago. He is in the United States. I don't remember his name, but he used to be a Muslim. He converted to Christianity and became an evangelist. It's a very popular book, and he presents there both the secular Muslims and the believing Muslims, as you have just talked about it. And unfortunately, this is how I always get the attention of my students when we talk about cultural diversity. I ask them, try to imagine, and I'm asking all of you to take that journey. Try to imagine you're going to the airport and you have checked in and you are in the waiting area and you see 10 people with turbans and with long beard. And when they say it's time to enter, to board, all the 10 go inside your airplane. What goes on in your mind? Most of us, from what we have watched on TV or read in the news, the picture that will come to our brain is not what he has described. We will most likely have the image that comes from the secular Muslims, where we have gotten the extremists. And to put things in a better perspective for us Christians, I remember reading an article once that was basically written by Muslims, and they had the same image about the Christians, because they say, you see, the Christians, they have been coming from America to come and kill thousands and thousands of innocent people, children, women in the Middle East. That was the first time it struck me that actually the same way we are viewing when we look at those who have been doing bad from the Muslim world, they have the same right to view the Christians the same way that Christians, they actually come and kill innocent people. If you look at what is happening in the Middle East, for example, a number of the countries that the United States has gone to, there's a lot of mess, there's a lot of killings, there's a lot of innocent people who have died. So does it make it right for the Christians? I know they don't do it in the name of the Christianity, but is it better that way if it is a bunch of Christians who come and wage war on another nation? That's when you put this in that perspective, you find that we all have issues, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or many other religions. We have good ones and bad ones. Let's see if we can have one more input from Ghana.
Okay. A few days ago, a friend posted something on Facebook. And this is what she said: because I know the truth, I like listening to lies. We Christians have this mentality that any other religion, because we have the truth, has nothing good to offer. And because of that, we tend to put away the people that God is interested in. And Muslims are one of them. I think it's time that we as Christians would love to or would develop the interest of listening to them. Why? Because we know the truth. And even if they are telling lies, we should listen to them. And when we listen to them, a time will come that they will also like to hear from us. When we do this, yes, we've had encounters, and this will be an opening door for us to do something with them. We've sat with them on the plains. We've lived in them, with them in our communities. Even our kids are going to school with them. And these are all opportunities that we can capitalize on. We have to start listening to their lies. And when their time comes, we also speak to them about our truth.
I think you have actually started touching on the next question. What misconceptions do we have as Christians? What misconceptions do we have against Muslims? And what can we do about that? Let's hear from you.
Wow. There's many to pick on when you think of the misconceptions, but the biggest one is that we are better than them. You know, just carrying on from what my brother Joseph was saying, we know that we have the truth, we have the Bible, but if you really have to study the account of Hagar and Ishmael, from where Islam, you know, came from, we will soon realize, if we prayerfully do it, that God indeed has a plan for the children of Ishmael. They had also the same promise that they would be made a great nation. And I think if we just take it from there, take a step back, although we believe that, okay, they don't have the truth because they don't believe in all the truths of the Bible, but rather of the Quran, we actually have a lot more in common with them than we think. And I think that is a good starting point and will erase, I think, 80 to 90% of the misconceptions that we have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pavel.
I think one of the common perceptions among Adventists also, that is Muslim people are hard to reach. They are not receptive. They are resistant people to the gospel. It's not true. They love Jesus. They love the sacred books. They love to pray. They have many things that we can relate to. And the only thing is that Muslim people are not about, they like to think, but the word itself is not enough to convert. It's not enough to transmit the gospel. It's the life as a whole. You need to live together. You need to share together. You need to become good friends, and then you can start conversing. You can start sharing your faith. It's not just sharing by words of testimony. It's not really enough.
But isn't that what we are supposed to actually be doing as Christians? That we should live a holistic life, a life where we consider everyone as a brother and a sister. It is unfortunate that that's what we'll see with the Muslims, and we may see less of that among ourselves. Let's, you wanted to add
mirror.
something?
It's a good mirror to see us.
Very good, very good. Let's ask our brother from Germany.
Yeah, I think misconceptions, there are many. One big misconception that that comes first in my mind is they are oppressing their women. This is something I think, especially women, the first thing when they think about Muslim faith, at least in Germany, many think about that. They have to put the veil and so on, and many men beat their wives and so on and so on. Then what I know from Germany, many see them as not being honest people, liars, and so on. So there are many misconceptions, and I think many things of those are based on a different worldview. It is the worldview, because I talked with several Muslim women, and they told me, some even they just had a little thing to look through here in their face, right? So I talked with them, I asked them straight, yeah, how do you feel about that, and so on. These girls, they had absolutely no problem. They said even the bigger problem were feminists approach who try to free them from things they don't even want to be free of. So I think we have many issues there which are just based on a different worldview, and we try to apply our worldview on them. And then we try, okay, this cannot be handled like that. You cannot live family like that. You cannot put a veil on your head. Even the Bible is also talking about that. And all those kind of things, right? So then we try to correct. And I think there the problem starts. We have to begin with understanding.
You have brought up something else that I encountered. I was actually before the war in Marawi, that is the southern part of the Philippines for viewers. This is a place where we had a war in 2017 for a number of months. Just before the war, I was invited to speak at the university in Marawi. And that is really one of the Muslim-dominated place. And many people are scared of the place. In fact, when I was traveling there, I was warned, everybody said, you must be crazy, you must be out of your mind, and so on. Anyways, I got there, and the welcome I received, it was completely the opposite of what I had read in the media and what I had watched on TV. It's like, okay, are they putting up on a face? But actually, I discovered they were genuinely interested in welcoming a visitor. And then I was talking to some of them. We collaborate in research and things. And one of them, we were talking about the difference between, similarities and the difference between Adventists and Muslims, because they happen to know Adventists. And they said, one thing that really startles us about the Christians in general, and you Adventists, you are also Christians. I could not believe it. What the woman said, and of course she was dressed just like you said, but she had lived in Europe before. She studied in Europe, so she was a little. She had opened, her face was not veiled. She is much more outgoing than typical Muslim. And she said, one thing that we don't understand with you Christians is that the sense of morality, you are losing that. It's like, oh, come on. You don't tell a Christian about morality. We believe we have morality. We think we're strong. And the one thing that she just said and just slapped me on my face, I just shut up after that. She said, come outside. We were outside during the break. She said, look around. Look at how Christian girls and women are dressed. To me, it doesn't hit me at all, because these are my sisters, my sisters, my nieces, my aunties, and this is how we dress, and we don't think it's a big deal. She said, how could you promote morality when you are not dressed properly? I never thought about it, because I live with that on a daily basis. The dress code we have is a different dress code than what we find in the Muslim world. And so how do you address that question? I still don't know how to address that question. We have just a couple minutes to go. How should Christians and Muslims discuss their religious beliefs? Just about 10 seconds each. How can we discuss our religious beliefs without fighting? Let's go to our brother from Ghana.
If you want to be heard, you have to listen.
Yes. Let's go to the next one. Excellent lesson.
I think one of the important things is for us to read Quran, to understand Quran, and to understand their worldview and terminology. This is what we miss sometimes.
Thank you so much. Very well stated. Yes.
Just focus on the similarities first. I think to build the rapport, there's many beliefs that we share in common. For example, the belief in one God. They believe in the patriarchs Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and that's a good starting point, is to just get that commonality. Instead of focusing on the differences, let's focus on what we agree on.
Very well stated.
Take it
Very
from
well
there.
stated. Let's go to the next one, and then we'll end with you.
I believe we can even say many things to them if we love them, and they will feel that.
Love them, they will listen to you. That's the same thing we expect from them.
Let us know the Quran and let us not take the Quran out of context. Of course, the Quran is more like a poem, and it's difficult to trace the historical context, but at least through the literary context and what the Muslim scholar says about the Quran. And also to the Muslim, I request them not to take the Bible out of context.
Thank you so much. We need to have mutual respect between the Christians and the Muslim. We have so many similarities. We need to read, especially for us here at IAS, you are academic scholarly people. Read more so that we will not continue to hold the stereotypes and the prejudices that may actually be creating a wall between us and the Muslims. Thank you so much for being with us today. And if you have questions or suggestions or recommendations, please do not send them to IAS. Send them to united@ias.edu. Again, if you have questions, recommendations, suggestions for our program, please contact us through united@ias.edu. Until we meet again next time, we wish you that you'll be united in diversity. Thank you so much.